now going to talk about customer awareness and perceptions of the Account Aggregator framework, results of this customer survey by CGAP and Sahamati. A little background about it. There was a survey done on 1,200 smartphone users to see their current adoption and awareness level of the Account Aggregator ecosystem. To look at the results of the survey, let me call upon two speakers. Our first one is Ms. Arisha Salman. Welcome, Arisha. She's the Financial Sector Specialist, Finance for Inclusive Development at CGAP. She's a Financial Sector Specialist, as I said. Her work is focused on, give me a minute to introduce you. Her work is focused on unlocking how data can enhance the value of financial services for low-income and underserved individuals. Before joining CGAP, Arisha has worked for over 5 years on digital financial inclusion and gender mainstreaming in South and Southeast Asia. Welcome once again. To join her, we have Mr. Rutvik Paikine, Policy and Communication Analyst at Team Sahamati.
Hello, I'm audible? So I'll just, in the meantime, the system is being set up. I would like to set the context. We started out with an idea to understand how customers perceive trust and what the value proposition for them in the account aggregator ecosystem are. We had our theories, we had our thoughts, how exactly what the customers might feel like, what the pain points are, and that is how the system was designed. But on few important topics like trust and awareness, there was a big hole in our knowledge, and this is not just for Sahamati, but at the ecosystem at large. So the motto that we follow in these such scenarios is that we need to go back to the customer. And this is a very successful strategy, I would say, that has been followed across products, across services, of how do we exactly design products that can be rolled out to a population scale. That happened during Aadhaar, happened during UPI, and it's also the same thing that we follow in the account aggregator ecosystem. So that's the idea, to understand what customers think of the account aggregator ecosystem and how do they perceive it, and what are the challenges that they hinder adoption right now, and what are the solutions that we as an ecosystem can implement so that we can go ahead and do a population scale rollout as fast as possible. So I'll just introduce Arisha. We've been working together for the past couple of months to roll this out, and she'll be sharing what the insights from this customer survey were. Over to you.
Thank you, Rutvik. So I'll start by sharing a summary of our key findings for the quantitative survey that we've conducted up till now with 1,200 respondents. And then Rutvik will share some of the qualitative findings. So overall, some of the findings that are emerging are a majority, over half the individuals who are given the option are willing to share data through account aggregators for loans. So not everyone is being given the option as of now. The proportion of individuals sharing data through account aggregators for loans has significantly increased. We conducted a previous survey in 2023, and we'd written a blog on this as well, which is available on the CGAP website, and we can share it here. And that proportion has significantly increased, alongside the awareness of account aggregators has also increased significantly. And I'll show you all the data that backs these insights in just a moment. As we've just seen, personal finance management has emerged as a critical use case in the last year, and this wasn't the case in our 2023 survey. While these are great developments, there are gender-based differences in the use of account aggregators for loans, with men being more likely to use account aggregators than women. And there are also location, education, and occupation-based differences, with urban, more educated, and employed customers, primarily salaried employees, more likely to use account aggregators. Overall, individuals report a positive experience while using account aggregators for loans and for PFM. And official campaigns, such as RBI's campaigns, have proven to be effective in creating awareness amongst individuals. So I'll break this down into 3 parts. We'll talk about the lending journey, the personal finance management journey, and wrap it up with experience, awareness, and future uptake, and also provide you a snapshot of what's coming next. Now, in terms of the lending journey, about 23% of respondents that we surveyed had applied for a loan in the last 18 months. Of these, 71% were given the option to share their data for an improved loan offer. The demographic trends are pretty similar to what I mentioned, but I'd just like to highlight that on occupation, salaried employees were more likely to have applied for a loan in the last 18 months as opposed to self-employed individuals. Now, of those 70% who were given the option for sharing additional data, about 40% were given the option for sharing data through this consent-based account aggregator process. And amongst those, 50% chose the consent-based process. So overall, from our sample, individuals who were given the option to share data through account or to share additional data, from amongst those, about 20% chose the consent-based process, which accounted for about 3% of the sample. What is very good to note is that this proportion doubled. So the percentage of individuals sharing additional data through the consent-based process doubled from 10% to 20% between 2023 and 2024. Overall, the motivations behind using the account aggregator process are about 3 in 5 report the ease of use and convenience is one of the key factors that drives their use. And for those who did not use the process, it is due to lack of trust in consent managers, as well as the lack of comfort in sharing data online. You'll also note that percentage of respondents who reported that they don't have access to net banking or physical statements really increased, and this could potentially be because it is inconvenient to access those statements, and hence they either choose not to have access to them or they don't have ready access. Overall, the consent-based process is pretty transparent, with 4 in 5 respondents who opted for this process stating that they were informed of the duration of consent validity as well as the option of revoking. And over 9 in 10 respondents stating that they did understand that they were sharing data through RBI-regulated entities that are the account aggregators. Now, what's really interesting is that even if respondents are not engaging with account aggregators, 32% of them say that they are aware of account aggregators, which is up from 10%. So that's 3 times of what it was, at least proportion-wise, in 2023. And you'll see that in terms of awareness, the demographic trends on gender, location, education, and occupation are similar to the initial demographic trends that I highlighted in the summary. Now, additionally, even if respondents have not used this process, 70% are willing to use account aggregators if they were able to access better loan offers in the future. And this is up from 33% in the previous round of the survey. And again, they primarily state that it's the convenience and trust in banks offering this option that would drive them to use it. So that brings us to the end of the lending journey. On PFM, like I said, there's some very interesting insights. Over a fourth of our sample claim to be using account aggregators to share data with PFM apps or personal finance management apps, primarily due to the convenience of this service. And our demographic trends, apart from gender, which didn't show any statistically significant differences, are pretty similar to what they were for loans. Similar to the lending process, 80% who opted for the process were informed of the validity of consent. pointing to the transparency of the process, and 72% were informed of the option of revoking consent, which we also found pretty surprising because it wasn't very clear that this option was being clearly given to customers, but that is the case. And 90% respondents understood that they were sharing their data through RBI-regulated entities. To talk about experience, awareness, and future uptake, and to close this out, we asked respondents both for the lending journey as well as for the PFM journey on how their experience was. And barring differences on location and education, overall the journey is either good or very good. So you'll see the blue and light blue bars are pretty significantly tall, both for lending as well as for PFM. So the experience seems to be pretty positive. Now, in terms of the perception of why or how the consent-based process is helping them, about 50% respondents perceive the ability to open new credit products, to access better loan offers, which is around 36% as some of the key benefits, and a lot of them find the process very easy and convenient. On the negative perception side, data hacking, data security, as well as lack of trust in this external entity, which is the consent manager, is cited as one of the potential negative impacts. As I had earlier mentioned, RBI campaigns and other official campaigns are effective, and they will continue to be effective in driving trust in this ecosystem. And it is incumbent upon us as an ecosystem to leverage these to create awareness. And finally, in terms of the products or the use cases, actually more the products that individuals are willing to use in the future, it's largely loans and EMIs, insurance, as well as personal finance management, with men being more likely than women to use account aggregators to access these products, and urban respondents being more likely than peri-urban or rural. So that brings us to the end of the quantitative insights. I will ask Rutvik to share qualitative insights and to close it out.
So we also did a qualitative exercise to understand to actually triangulate what the quantitative exercise comes out with. And we found that most of the insights that are also present in the quantitative survey do also reflect in the qualitative part. But there is very interesting insights, I would say, which really point out to what's the road ahead for us as an ecosystem. There is a significant gap in to understand what the current awareness and education campaigns address trust and security concerns for the ecosystem. Customers currently are not very comfortable with sharing their data across. Most of the, this is in general, I would say, okay, the customers in general are not very comfortable in a data sharing process which they do not completely understand. And hence, we need to hinge on the fact that customer awareness and education campaigns through a very trusted medium, similar to RBI or an ecosystem brand, which is the identity of the ecosystem at large, could be created so that it gives more strength and more momentum to the ecosystem. So there are few interesting insights. These are, again, not very counterintuitive, rather very intuitive to what really could look like. But our experience of talking to customers, we got that finance in general is very overwhelming for people. And especially for people who do not come from a very educated background, do not come from a financially and digitally literate background, finance is very overwhelming. They get afraid to go to the banks, walk into the banks, interact with the customers there, the agents there, with the officials there. And how do we make, so the problem that we really need to solve is how do we make finance really accessible and easy for customers. And account aggregators are really one of the pipelines that feed into it. And we also need to think of in holistic terms, in terms of all other pipelines that feed into this to make finance accessible and easy for customers at large. So we have one small demo, not a demo as such, but a customer testimonial we'd like to play for you. and we'll end it there.
जब मैं फर्स्ट टाइम अप्लाई किया था तो मेरा नंबर जो है दिक्कत था, तो मैंने स्टेटमेंट बैंक से निकलवा के दे दिया था। उसके बाद सेकंड टाइम में फिर नंबर भैया वाला अपडेट करवाया, तो फिर अगली बार मैंने एग्रीगेटर से अप्लाई किया था तो हो गया था। एग्रीगेटर दिए, ऑटोमेटिक ओटीपी आया, सक्सेसफुल दिखाया, तो इन्होंने कहा हो गया तुम्हारा अप्लाई।
और तो आपने जो वो डाउनलोड करके भेजा था पहली बार,
फर्स्ट टाइम
उसमें कितना वक्त लगा था?
उसमें तो सर बैंक जाना पड़ गया था। बैंक जाना पड़ गया था, उसमें भी 180 चार्जेस लिया बैंक ने, तब मेरा 180 चार्जेस लिया, तब स्टेटमेंट दिया मेरे।
तो आपको एग्रीगेटर में कितना वक्त लगा अपना?
1 मिनट,
1 मिनट से?
1 मिनट मुश्किल से।
हाँ
1 मिनट में एग्रीगेटर सक्सेसफुल हो जाता है, लोडिंग हुआ, और उसके बाद बोला तुम जाओ, तुम जब वीडियो केवाईसी कराना हो तो यहाँ आ जाना। वहाँ मैं विजिट किया, फिर उसके बाद हो गया। तो बोला इतना लेना है आपको? मैं बोला हाँ जी मेरे को जरूरत है, हम तो ले लेंगे। तो फिर इतना फिर अप्रूवल आया, फिर उसके बाद भैया मेरे को फ़ोन किया, फिर मैंने जगह पे यहाँ पे जैसे यहाँ लगा रखे हैं वैसे वहाँ पे थे, तो विजिट किया वहाँ पे, तो उन्होंने मेरा केवाईसी वगैरह किया। फिर 24 आवर में मेरा खाते में उतना अमाउंट आ गया था, जीएसटी वीएसटी काट के, हाँ जो चार्ज था उतना काट के आ गया।
So although this was a very confident customer, finance is generally not very easy for customers at large. So this is the impact of account aggregators, how it can be really made very easy for customers. So next step for us when we get back to you is also to understand how do we triangulate what the insights and the quantitative outputs we have received from a survey, and how do we look at it from a industry perspective? How do we triangulate those insights from an FIU perspective, from an FIP perspective? So these are the next set of activities that will soon launch, and so will reach out to the industry at large, and we'll need your support to create a more feasible path for financial inclusion and data empowerment in India. Thank you.
Thank you, Ritvik. And thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Ritvik. Thank you, Arisha. Arisha, we would like to thank you with a token of appreciation. Abhishek, could you do the honors, please, while we set up for the next. So we'll get ready for our next panel discussion now.